Hello, my name is Fred Smith. I'm a father engagement specialist from Allegheny County Children, Youth, and Families, located in Pittsburgh, PA. My title today is Time Keeps on Ticking, the Adoption and Safe Families Act. I graduated from Pitt University with my master's degree in community organization and social administration. I'm in my 22nd year with the county, working at Children, Youth, and Families. I'm involved in the equity work on the job, which include leading a group called Black Men in and Out of the Agency. The goal of this group is to bring Black men into the agency, as well as give Black men in the agency support. I did a lot of community work over the years. My present community work is with Perry Hilltop and Family Citizens Council. I'm the co-chair for the Housing Working Group, where we attempt to prevent displacement as well as obtain affordable housing to keep our community diverse. So why did I choose the Adoption and Safe Families Act? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In 1997, Dave Kemp, a Republican out of Michigan, introduced the Adoption and Safe Families Act. His first version of the bill said if a parent neglects their child 18 out of 24 months, we seek termination of parental rights. Maureen K. Hogan, who was the executive director of Adopt a Special Kid and the expert, requested that the 18 to 24 months be amended to a 12-month limit. Both suggestions were considered, and they landed in the middle, 15 out of 22 months. Now, the Adoption and Safe Families Act foundation is two things: foster care drift, where children are being left in foster care, bouncing from home to home without no sense of permanency, without no sense of security, waiting for their parents to safely reclaim them, as well as child safety over reunification. They claim that children are being left in their biological parents' care for too long or returned too quickly, suffering serious maltreatment. Now, in my research, I didn't identify anything around children's safety that showed this was a growing concern during that time. In my training, I told a story about Nixon's administration that showed the length that people will go to get their agenda done. Now, why did I pick this topic? Historically and today, Black and brown people have a hard time trusting systems, right? Because of this fact, I noticed that due to seriously delayed involvement or limited involvement in the child welfare system, Black and brown children have been seeing their parents' rights terminated because they simply just ran out of time. This is my PICO. If staff are trained in how to inform Black and brown families, and specifically fathers that have been or may be impacted by ASFA's timelines of how this impact their parental rights, will it increase caseworkers' knowledge and help them to know how to assist and empower parents in their efforts to be involved and reunify with their children? Now, this problem can't be fixed through training. This is a systemic issue, right? So training can only inform, and that's what my PICO is saying. If staff are trained in how to inform Black and Brown families. In order for this to happen, the training should include an understanding of the culture, as well as address discrimination, biases, and racism. I believe that ASFA can build a relationship between caseworkers and families. The caseworker would have to learn how to communicate and share ASFA. So, like I was saying, if they are informed, right, on how to, if they are informed on how to work with Black and Brown families, they will be able to do just that. So the first thing they will have to realize is that this law is a devastating law to Black and Brown children, and honestly share from the start, right? So day one of a child or children entering into placement, you have to honestly share ASFA. Now, parents may only receive 5% of what you're saying, but still share it, right? And then continue to share every 3 months, which could align with the family plan, or every contact, as often as possible. The urgency and honesty will be received, and the care will be felt by the family. Now, the agencies will have to choose to share ASFA, because this, in which we have been doing, because the law doesn't require it, right? This is a federally mandated law, but it don't require us to share ASFA, like the Miranda rights in HIPAA, where they are also federally mandated, and we are required to share those two laws, but we're not required to share ASFA. Now, in the research overview, I did a literature review, a case study, interviews, and training. In my literature review, I looked at over 30 to 50 articles, journals, podcasts, YouTube. Last year was the 25th year anniversary of ASFA, so there was a lot of information put out. ASFA has disproportionately affected Black and Brown and poor families. In 2022, Black children were 1.5 times more likely countrywide to enter foster care, and 2.6 times more likely than white children. Now, the makeup of the United States as of the 2022 census is whites 75.5%, Blacks 13.6%, and Hispanics 19.1%. Even though Black and Brown people have the lowest percentage between these two groups, Black and Brown children has the highest rate of representation in the child welfare system, right? As a result, Black and Brown families are more likely to experience the impact of ASFA, in which these odds increase due to the distrust of the system, which I talked a little bit about, equaling the lack of involvement of Black parents. Now, there's another thing that's important to note in my literature review is what was going on in the 90s. In 1994, you had a crimes bill which brought mass incarceration to Black or Brown communities and the separation of parents from their children due to incarceration. In 1996, you had a welfare reform. Agencies were already removing children in Black and Brown communities due to poverty, calling it neglect. But the welfare reform and the cutting of welfare expanded poverty and which compelled agencies to remove children even more. And then you have the 1997 ASFA. Now, my case study, the goal was to collect data from my agency around the topic to see was there anything there, in which I will share with you momentarily. I was able to interview 2 people. The interviews were incorporated in my training. I received great feedback from the interviews. Participants of the training pointed out a difference between the 2 interviews I didn't catch, which was profound. At the training, I had a little under 50 slides. The training was 5 hours, 28 people registered, 9 attended. The training was in person and not virtual, which could explain the low attendance. Now, this is from my literature review. This is Newt Gingrich, a quote from him. He is the Republican Speaker of the House from 1995 to 1999, and this was on the cusp of the Adoption of Safe Families Act being approved. He was voted into this position as the leader of the Republican Party, and he argues that government funds going to children born of welfare mothers should be diverted to programs that would put their babies up for adoption and place in them in orphanages, right? So with this bring, when I look at this, I see they have us focusing on the foster care drift and child safety over reunification. But the underlying driving force is the breaking up of Black and brown families. It was Reagan that coined the term welfare queens, referring to Black and brown mothers. Newt's statement is no different. This is my case review findings. I just want to look at the first one. One caseworker assigned to the life of the case, 13%. So this is high turnover, right? And high turnover adds to the distrust of the system by Black and brown families. They feel that they have to start over. They have to rebuild trust. And we talked about the trust, they don't want to explain their story to another stranger. They feel that that they're not being heard. So, these add to the distrust of Black and brown families, which can equal them their rights being terminated due to simply running out of time and not adhering to the timeline of 15 out of 22 months. Now, when there's a change, the problem is it's communicated poorly. So if attending the training, caseworkers will learn how to communicate effectively with Black and brown families. Attending family teaming meetings, 62% mothers. Fathers, 25%. These meetings are built around the family. So this is attending these meetings, right? So just keep that in mind. Family case plans come out of these meetings. Goals are established and supported by families. Besides non-negotiable goals, which is set up by the courts. So you have 77% of mothers' case plans address safety concerns that led to removal, right? Which, where you have 62% of mothers attending the meetings, which is not bad. Now, you have 90% of fathers' case plans addressing the safety concerns that led to removal, but you only have 25% of fathers attending these meetings, right? So what that is telling me is that caseworkers are completing these plans without fathers' input, without fathers' buy-in. No father usually means no kinship care option, right? So, and who suffers the most? The child, that he don't have both sides of his family. But kinship care is an exception to the 15 to 22 month mandate. So kinship care alone can stop the termination of parental rights. So this is my pre and post test. The pre-test is in blue, the post-test is in green. The number on top or going up the side indicate participants' correct answers, right? So we look at the first one, year ASFA signed into law. So for the pre-test, 3 out of 9 got that correct, right? For the post-test, 7 out of 7. So pretty much I want to show that there's learning taking place. Now, as far as the participants, I had to expand the gamut of our agency. So I had the acting deputy director. I had a regional office director who is over one of the offices, supervisor, which is under the regional office director, and that's the supervisor of the caseworkers and caseworker. And I had a best practice specialist, 2 wellness support staff, a record staff, and an intern, right? So 3 out of 9 that have direct knowledge or involvement with ASFA. So there was learning taking place with people who does not even have, with individuals that don't have direct involvement with ASFA. But again, my participants were pretty much the makeup of my agency. The intervention and methodology, training needs to address challenges, right? So explaining disproportionality. So that will look like parents' trust and Black and brown or Black children entering into care at a higher rate. So them are the 2 disproportionate things I spoke of throughout this presentation. Also, it needs to address the culture. And when we're addressing the culture, we're looking at the trauma, we're looking at trust and opportunity historically and today. Also, we need to enlighten participants about the exceptions. I spoke of kinship care being an exception to the 15 to 22 month rule, right? But there's compelling reasons and lack of reasonable efforts, just sharing these exceptions and plus sharing the law and the history, will be impactful to the agency. And get caseworkers to engage parents for 12 months, limit at least, right? And as far as discussing engagement of fathers, children in father-absent homes are 4 times greater risk of poverty, more likely to have behavioral problems, more likely to go to prison, 3 times more likely to drop out of school. So knowing these facts, and in my training, I share more of the facts in regards to fathers' involvement. My methodology formed in a conversational style, right? During my training, participants understood the challenges and were interested in solving the problem. Within the training, advice, I received advice in regards to conducting a lunch and learn, engaging for 12 months. And I spoke to my acting deputy director about caseworkers engaging families, Black and brown families, 4 to 12 months at least, and how we could go about doing that. Small group discussions that will follow my training, and to reduce training to 3 hours was some of the advice I received. The pre and post tests after training, participants demonstrated an increase in knowledge. My evaluation and results, I measured the temperature of the room, make sure everybody was okay, they felt all right, that I addressed any questions in training real time, and had conversation around those questions. I asked participants of the training for advice after training concluded. As the presenter, I felt comfortable and pleased with the results. My MPLD impact and next steps. My next steps is, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving. Dr. Martin Luther King. So I will continue to, I will take the advice that I received, I was given, and start implementing it. I will lean into what I learned from the MPLD time, and I would just keep pushing for change. Now my impact, MPLD impact, was growth, was knowledge, and was confidence. So when I think of growth, I think of leadership. I learned different types of leadership. I organized support for my case study by drawing from different departments of the agency, and also building a team that would help me view cases. In addition, I was challenged on implementing some of the leadership skills I learned by the MPLD team, knowledge, academic and hands-on experience. I taught myself how to put together a PowerPoint. I led my first 5-hour training. Confidence. I grew in confidence, and this topic on Adoption and Safe Families Act. I grew in relationship with my coworkers. I personally took on another small presentation to prepare for my training. And thank you for your time.